It's really cool to hear you talk about some of those technical data aspect things because the traditional assumption is that the average CMO isn't technically savvy or data savvy. Like we talk to a lot of attribution measurement vendors and they sell into CMOs and CFOs, and it's like two very different conversations. You're a three-time CMO and you're talking about experimentation design. I don't think that qualifies as like your average CMO background there. Maybe chat about like how that has like shaped your experience and your background now going back to the entrepreneurial world. You're a co-founder at ConvertML. Like obviously that helped shape that decision. Maybe chat about that a bit.
Sure. Yeah. Look, I mean, I think it's true that not every CMO has an affinity for the data side of things. If you oversimplify marketing as a discipline, there's sort of like brand marketing on the one end, and then data driven marketing or performance marketing on the other end, right? And you can exist anywhere on the continuum. And I think by nature and by training, I'm sort of personally more maybe two-thirds on the end of the spectrum towards the data and performance marketing. But I've spent 15 years or so trying to, really develop skill and mastery on the brand side as well. And I think I'm fairly balanced. But there are some marketers who are just like they're a brand person. And for some businesses, that's really the thing that they need most. Um, I do happen to believe, though, for the kind of businesses that I work in, I think that the strategic role of a marketing leader requires fluency in data and in technology. Um, we don't. It's not Mad Men anymore.
No.
And I'm not trying to disparage brand marketers. I'm just saying, like, there was a time when that was the totality of marketing, and now, in the age of digital marketing, and user generated content, and social media, and connected devices, and I mean, the things that you can do as a marketer have exponentially exploded. And I think you have to keep your finger on the pulse. You don't have to be a master of everything, but you've got to understand modern technology and you've got to have some level of understanding of data because those new technology touch points not only give you new ways to engage with your end customer or your prospective customers, which is very exciting for anybody who tries to drive the top line of a business, but it also creates data, right? Which gives you insight. So not only does it give you reach and access, but it also gives you insight. And so it's really the combination of those things that's so important. Now you mentioned ConvertML, and yeah, I'm really excited to be a co-founder of ConvertML. It's a business that was born about a year and a half ago. My co-founder and I got together, we met, and we were talking about how do you put give people access. This is now, it may sound like it's in conflict with what we've just been talking about, but how do you give people access to advanced statistical methods in a way that doesn't make them vulnerable to misinterpreting the data? How do you kind of give them safe, reliable access to advanced statistical methods? And what we found is that um, we can, well, we are, one can, and we are at ConvertML, making use of generative AI. Generative AI was, before it existed, in order to get access to these advanced statistical methods, you needed to hire a data scientist or a PhD or somebody who like deeply understood that stuff. I don't have a PhD. I do understand more than most marketers need to. I understand data and advanced, data science methods, but you had to have somebody with that level of depth to really use the data and get that kind of insight out of the data. Right. And we could talk about the difference between like reporting and analytics, because most people just do crosstabs and that's just reporting. Whereas they don't use any statistics because they haven't understood, when they apply and how to interpret them and, which ones to use where. And so the idea was, so then pre-pandemic, pre-generative AI, you need a statistics expert
Yeah.
to then apply those methods to your data. then generative AI happened. And generative AI is fascinating because it has the ability to emulate the sort of human interpretive function that gets applied. I mean, there's like art and science in a lot of this stuff. When you're interpreting the data, there's some cognitive, intuitive leaps you have to make to see patterns and then call them out and say, well, what does this actually mean? And humans do that. They do it with varying degrees of, reliability and insight, but they do it. And generative AI, if it's prompted correctly or intelligently, can also do a reliably good job there. So it's really the combination. What we've done with ConvertML is we've said, look, we understand these advanced methods that require expertise. And what we can do is we can program into a generative AI engine knowledge about which methods to use in which circumstances. When the data has these characteristics, use this method. When it has this characteristic, use this method. And then it not only does the analysis, but then serves up a facts set and an interpretation of what it means. So it kind of closes the gap, and it gives you a reliable, extremely insightful view into your data without having to often hire a $300,000 a year data scientist, and without having to go back for your PhD in statistics, which some people will do, but it's not the path that everybody takes. And so that's really what ConvertML does. It harnesses the power of advanced analytical methods and generative AI, and through automation, combining these two things, you can put in the hands of average to advanced business users. You can put in the hands like a reliably powerful statistical analysis engine that'll tell them, hey, this matters. This doesn't matter so much, right? This is what you should go do next.
Very cool. So you're promoting data democratization, but in a safe, responsible way with
It's really that
tools.
last bit, right?
Yeah.
Exactly, because as I said earlier, I do believe in putting it in the
Yeah.
hands of everybody. I just happen to believe that there are a lot of ways you can go wrong.
Yeah.
And statistics really helps, but the problem is there's this big barrier where like people don't want to go study statistics. They've got a business to run,
Right.
right? And so giving them access to a tool that helps them to get the answers they need in a timely manner without all of the, hiring and management of data wonks, myself included, right? I say that affectionately, but you don't want to have to go do that for most
Yeah.
businesses. And so, yeah, that's really where ConvertML is designed, to play. And, whether it's survey data like market research type stuff and segmentation, or or even asking questions like in English and getting answers, right? You can use generative AI now to like ask a question in spoken English and you get an answer that's rooted in your data set. Well, that's powerful, right? And we have that in ConvertML. We're not the only ones. People have stuff like that, but it's really powerful. So the idea is to give people safe, reliable, insightful access to their own data. And so I mentioned that's surveys or direct access to like full database. Two different offerings, but same kind of tool set that you put on top.